We are live. It's BRAP. It's Wednesday, and excited to be here. We have a special guest this evening. Actually, we got a returning guest. First of all, let me give a big shout out to everyone in the live chat. Want to say thank you to everyone coming out and hanging out with us this evening. Really appreciate the support as always. And if you haven't done so, please hit that like button. Oh, you know what? I just realized we're not even in the same room. Hold on. I messed up, Everborn. Hold on. We're gonna go to the BRAP show. All right, everyone. Sorry about that. I just realized I forgot to move us to the Discord channel for the BRAP show, and okay, now officially we're live. So sorry about that again.
The joys of live streaming.
Yeah, the joy. I tell you what. I had it all planned out. I was like, okay, intro's fire, great intro. And then, and I was like, wait a minute, there's no one here.
As Mike Tyson once said, everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the face.
Exactly. Yes. And I think I just punched myself in the face because I didn't move us over. I was, thinking about the time and trying to get the podcast started. So anyhow, we're live. Welcome back to BRAP. It's Wednesday. It's for the love of video games. And I want to give a big shout out to everyone in the live chat. We have a special returning guest. We have Everborn Saga, who's one of the most talented individuals that I know on the Twitters, social media. Everborn, welcome back to BRAP, sir.
How are you? Thank you for having me. I told you, man, anytime you have an invite on a Wednesday, I'm here. And ready to party.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. So Predator says you only have one guest today. No, we have, I believe, one Bad Mother will be joining us later on tonight. He's actually recording a show that he does. You Had Me at Halo, which is a Halo fan podcast. And he's doing that. And then I think will be joining us later on. And then we'll have Slimo Backslap and Gaming Forte joining us as well. But
speaking one thing, Brad, hold on. Speaking of Halo, do you want to take back any of that concern you had for Halo the last time we discussed all of this? Are you still feeling worried, or do you feel like it's going to hit the way it's supposed to hit?
I'm still worried.
Really?
I think the multiplayer is probably going to be okay. I'm a little concerned that the campaign might be shaky. Maybe I've heard
so.
Yeah, I've heard that, and this is as about a month ago. I heard that the campaign's going to be about an 8-hour campaign. That internally there was a push to delay the release of the campaign, release the multiplayer aspect of the game first, and then delay the release of the campaign. And the higher ups of Microsoft, no, you can't do that. So
I think that would have been a monumental mistake, and I'll tell you why. Go ahead, but I'll tell you why I think that would be a terrible idea.
Yeah, and I heard obviously there's still some there were still some bugs that they were working on, and they're still trying to get the thing up to par. But again, that could have all changed. That was a month ago. So
yeah. I mean, in the world of software engineering, though, I don't think a month is going to fix any systemic problems, right? And I'll tell you, just working in that field, upper management many times thinks they can throw money or bodies at a software problem, and that is not always the case. That you can just solve it in any given amount of time. That being said, I'm not super concerned, and I do think that this campaign. It's very important, and the reason why I think that in terms of first-person shooters, I'm not talking about RPGs like Cyberpunk, because that's not a first-person shooter, it's just first-person perspective. I think in the world of first-person shooters, the campaign itself is dying, and Halo is kind of the last one to hold the line. Right? You look at Destiny, there's a campaign, but no one cares about it. Call of Duty is separating those things. Battlefield got rid of it altogether. I really think that Halo, that's really going to be its claim to fame. I know that the multiplayer is going to be great, or at least I should say I have every confidence that it will be. But I think that them being the last high profile shooter that still takes their campaigns seriously is going to be very important for the success uh, of the game. At least that's how I see it.
Yeah, no, I think the great points there, Evan Bourne. And I actually thought you think too that if they didn't release the campaign at the same time, I mean, I think the optics of it would have been pretty bad for Microsoft for Halo. But I think you make a great point. Like it's that genre has kind of changed. You don't like Call of Duty's kind of. I mean, they did come out. Well, the Cold War game, was it Cold War? I don't remember the last Call of Duty game, what it was called.
I don't know. I feel like the stories in Call of Duty have just been interchangeable. I don't know. I mean, people say good things about Cold War.
Cold War was actually pretty good. That was actually a pretty good campaign, but one of the better ones that I played. But you're right, Battlefield. I mean, the campaign is just nearly non-existent. I mean, and I think Battlefield hadn't really had a good campaign in quite some time. I can't recall. Maybe Bad Company 2 maybe is the last one I think I enjoyed. So
I need that campaign to hit the way it's supposed to hit.
Yeah, no, I do too. So it's going to be interesting, and we'll talk about the we're going to talk about the Halo Infinite beta, which goes live tomorrow. We'll talk about Shawn Layden.
Yeah, rip the Ascent. I was planning on playing that tomorrow, but then I got in.
Oh yeah, and the Ascent, yeah, that releases that.
I will be playing that one on Monday.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I would, had I gotten in, I would have been playing. Halo, the Halo beta as well, Infinite beta as well.
You didn't get in?
No, I didn't get in. No, but
that's because the doubt. You were sowing seeds of doubt.
Yeah.
And they saw the BRAP show, and it's like, okay, see how much you doubt it now.
Yeah, and I'm not, and I don't know if they were looking at people's like profiles too to see who plays Halo a lot. I don't play Halo a lot. I haven't played Halo in, to be frank, probably. I played Halo Reach late last year on my PC, but I haven't played Halo multiplayer in a very long time. It's probably been a year.
I haven't played Halo multiplayer since maybe 2016, 2017. And as far as the campaign, like I finished it. That was the first Halo that I didn't say I'm going to beat it on Legendary because I didn't feel like the story was done. Yeah. I was never in the hater campaign. I was like, okay, this is good. We'll get a follow-up in a year or so because it feels like it kind of ended on a cliffhanger and then there was nothing, right? Which I found super weird. They should have just used the same engine again and at least finished that part of the story. But aside from that, like I'm going to get washed this week, and I can see it now. I'm so rusty, and the only time I played Halo 5 again was when the Series X first came out because I was testing out all of these old games. Also because that was the only thing they had to play. But I don't know. I don't know how I'm going to do this weekend. I'm just going to maybe have to hide in the cut and get these cleanup kills.
Well, the cool thing is they're actually going to let people, stream, their gameplay live. So that's cool. They're not, it's not behind closed doors per se. People are, so even though I didn't get in, I'm still going to be able to see, kind of what potentially what this looks like and what it's going to look like when it releases. So, but we'll talk about that, the Halo Infinite beta here in a little bit. And we're also going to talk about Shawn Layden, who discusses Xbox. He talked about Xbox GamePass, had some interesting comments about the model, if you will. And then also, there's another PlayStation 5 game that a PlayStation exclusive that was delayed. We'll talk about that. And then we'll also talk about Activision, which actually we should probably talk about Activision right now. You and I know you were a part of the conversation earlier in the week on Double Barrel Gaming about Activision. That was actually a pretty good discussion. It's not I don't think it's an easy topic to discuss per se. But I said this last week, everyone. I said, hey, this thing is going to get worse, maybe potentially before it gets better for Activision.
I don't think it's just Activision, though. I think, listen, anyone that thinks like that this probably didn't, or you won't hear about it from Sony or Microsoft or whoever, like this is kind of a thing that happens a lot more often than we like to think. It's just Activision was really bad, but don't like there was someone that came to light from Insomniac, and they wrote that tweet thread sometime last year, and nobody. Uh, I didn't hear anyone talking about it last year, but it's just because of this Activision stuff that's resurfacing, and I'm wondering if that will give more people the courage to kind of stand up and say things. So I don't know. It could be a snowball effect.
Yeah, it might, and we have other stories. You're right. This isn't new in the industry per se because we have other stories of, we know about Ubisoft. There's stories of Rockstar, harassment issues at Rockstar. Quantic Dream is another one. We've heard about that. But Activision is kind of the latest, and I think the lawsuit may be the tipping point here, for where we might see we start seeing more people speak out against sexual harassment and things of that nature within game studios. But there was a Activision walkout that happened. There was a letter by the Activision employees. The CEO of Activision has addressed the concern, saying that they've hired a law firm and they're going to look into this and things need to change. I personally, my opinion, I think he's part of the problem too.
Yeah.
I always think this. It comes from the top down. The culture starts from the top. It trickles its way down. At least that's always been my experience for companies that I've worked for, good and bad.
To me, the thing is this. I think any way you look at it, even if I don't know if he knew about this or he set the tone for that culture, but my thing is, if it's this widespread and you didn't know, you either didn't want to know, or like it's like you're either incompetent or you're negligent, right? So if you didn't want to know, you're negligent, and if you just actually didn't know, then like that's your job to know, right? You are the captain of the ship, and even if you had nothing to do with it, this is out in the open now, right? Activision's name is sullied, right? Just at the most basic, like, take your feelings out of it, right? Activision is sullied, and talent, they are going to lose talent over this, right? And if they begin to lose talent and they begin to lose money, and you can't say you didn't know about it, like, you got to take the fall with everybody else, right? Like, there's an investigation from the state of California into this company that will bring civil penalties as well as criminal charges on certain individuals, and you are at the top of that ship, and the captain should go down with the ship. That's it. Forget about speculation, forget about feelings. You were at the helm of the company when it's getting this statewide investigation, and someone committed suicide, right? Like,
yeah, there's an allegation.
In my mind, like, you gotta go.
Yeah.
Even there's no way around it where I don't think he has to step down.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I just want to make a quick point here, evermore. The other thing that's troubling here is that, obviously this had to work its way up through I would imagine, the chief. What they don't have the title, I think, of like VP, or maybe it's like chief people officer or something like that. I would imagine that these complaints would have worked their way up to that individual, and that individual probably has some dialogue, I would imagine, would have some kind of dialogue with the CEO of the company, unless he's that far removed or disconnected, which I would be surprised if he was. But either way, like you said, this isn't a good look for Activision at all. And, I think that, I don't think I don't think Activision is looking forward to this kind of more discovery, if you will, as they head into a trial here with the state of California, because what just happened today And I don't know if everyone read this article Kotaku put out today. One of the few times I read Kotaku, by the way.
I was about to say, you still reading that? Okay.
Yeah. I typically don't read Kotaku, but to be frank, so Kotaku has this article today that Blizzard developers at BlizzCon had a room in their hotel called the Bill Cosby Suite.
Okay, now, in what year did they have this? Is this like while the Bill Cosby stuff was in the news?
So they had the Cosby Suite. There's pictures of the Cosby Suite, of them taking a picture, a bunch of males in a room, laying in a bed, pointing their fingers up, posing, and they're in this hotel room, and they have a picture of Bill Cosby. They're holding it up behind them, and this picture was taken in 2013.
Okay.
So I don't know. I don't recall when the Cosby allegations really hit the mainstream per se. There had always been allegations there. I know that about Bill Cosby. Like there's always been rumblings about things that that he had alleged that he allegedly did to women. I mean there had been those kind of rumblings, but I don't think, and I don't know if 2013. Maybe you can. Maybe
I don't think it was. I don't think it was in 2013 where that became like a news, because it wasn't until like after the Me Too movement stuff where the Cosby stuff was in the news like that. So that's, I don't know, that timing is interesting. I think like in hindsight now that looks terrible, and this doesn't negate any of the terrible things that they did. But if that was in 2013. I don't know. I don't know. Unless Cosby was at some Activision parties.
I mean, maybe he was. I mean, wasn't his MO 40s and Quaaludes or something? Like, wasn't that his MO for a little bit?
I mean, yeah. I don't know. Maybe he. I don't know. I don't know.
I mean, I hear what you're saying, Edward. Like the optics of it look pretty bad. Like, and maybe it wasn't at the height of the Cosby allegations, but the irony of this. But if you look at the irony of this picture, right? The sexual misconduct, harassment, right? Discrimination case, and then we see a picture of them, and they have a suite named the Cosby Room with a picture of Bill Cosby. It just it doesn't look good,
Yes, but I'm always on this thing where. And this is why the timing is important, right? Like we can have those conversations about the kind of terrible behavior that was going on there, and like I said, I think everybody that's involved needs to be prosecuted to the full extent of the law. And I had this conversation. Boone's show wasn't the first time that I had talked about this, because we have a show on Saturdays with Kay Asante on Kay Asante's channel, the Gaming Circle podcast, where we kind of dedicated the show to this, and the idea sort of came up that we should have like a regulatory body to look at these things, or some kind of independent board, and I disagree with that, and that led to the conversation of me feeling like we have to judge each accusation and allegation on its merits and not the optics of how it looks. So if that happened in 2013, I don't know that they were praising Bill Cosby unless they knew about it, but I don't think we should. Things are bad enough that we don't need to add that to the fray. Yes, it's bad optics in 2021, but if it's from 2013, I don't think it's relevant, and there's far more serious and relevant things in that are being alleged by the state of California and these employees and former employees.
Yeah, no, I agree with that point about tying the Cosby thing to what's going on, because again, this is 2013. I think, again, I agree with you more than anything else. It's the optics of it. It's like, in addition to, it's like you hear these allegations and you see the Cosby thing, like, oh God, it's like, yeah. I mean, we I don't know the height of the Cosby allegations. I don't think it was 2013. There were previous allegations levied against Bill Cosby that never really went anywhere. That's not, that there was rumblings of that in Hollywood. Whether or not any of those individuals were aware of that, we don't know, right? Maybe they were, and if they were, that's terrible. I mean, it's even worse. We don't know. We don't know. You know, we only see the picture, right, and that's it. But I do think though that it kind of speaks if you listen if you read the story here, Kotaku, and it talks about this Cosby Room. It says basically during the company the BlizzCon, one of the individuals named in this lawsuit, and I forget his name here. Oh, Alex. I can't pronounce his last name. I know I'm going to butcher this. Afrazibi. I don't know if that's correct. So during
Let's just call him Frisbee.
Frisbee, yes, we'll call him Frisbee for sure. Thank you. During a company event at BlizzCon, Frisbee would hit on female employees, telling them he wanted to marry them, attempting to kiss them, and putting his arms around them. This was in plain view of other male employees, including supervisors who had to intervene and pull him off female employees. I mean, come on, that's nuts, right?
Yeah, it is nuts, right? And again, I always say this to people because I'm gonna say something that contradicts what I'm about to say, but I just want to give context. Say, if you think it's not a big deal, and I said this on Boom Show, imagine if it was your daughter or your sister or your mom or your wife that had to go to work or a work function and deal with that, right? And if you wouldn't be cool with that for your sister or your female family member or loved one, then don't say it's fine, get over it, right? So that's that thing. However, on the other note, and this is still recent, so it's bad, but I do think that, and again, this is not to excuse any sort of abuse that may have taken place, but I do think the world is changing for the better, and we are becoming more aware, and we're becoming better versions of
Everboard,
ourselves.
I kind of laugh here because in some ways I think we are, in other ways we're not, and and the other ways we're not. I relate that to the pandemic and what I've seen with that, but that's another conversation.
Yes, yes. But the point that I'm trying to come to is, now that we are our enlightened selves, I think that it's important that we understand that we are all sort of growing and changing. And I think we do tend to judge the past by current standards all the time, even though we're constantly evolving. And I give the example, I used to watch, you watch Porky's or something like that, or some of these shows.
Oh my God,
movies,
that movie's so.
Right?
Oh my God, that's blast from the past, man. Movies, by the way, have changed a lot.
Right, exactly. But back in the day, you'll watch that. It's hilarious. It's a lot of rap music that I used to listen to in the 90s, which was all about like killing people and drugs. And I mean, I'll still listen to some of that today, and I like it. But like, when you hear what they're talking about, once you have kids, once you grow, you kind of don't want to hear that anymore. So you've grown as a person. There's terrible things that I used to think or used to say, right? And I think that goes for all of us. So we're all growing as we learn more, and as society becomes more, evolved and aware of other people's feelings, and all those things, I think we got to judge today by today's standards. But again, this is very separate from like some of these like actual like rape and serious allegations. That's not what I'm talking about. That was always bad. But we did live in a different time, and we are in a different time now, and we're getting better. So I just always want to make sure I say that, because a lot of the times we see stuff that somebody said 10 years ago, and we're like, oh my God. But like 10 years ago, people were saying dumb shit like that. Right?
Yeah.
But again, I got to be clear. That does not excuse like some of these crazy allegations. But I mean, look at American Pie, right? Like, all of these things, they or weird science, right? Like all those things that we kind of grew up on and just thought were hilarious, that they're not funny anymore because it wouldn't be accepted. So
Yeah, no, no, I understand that different culture back then too is what you're describing. Those movies are, yeah. I mean, just different times. But
doesn't excuse harassment either. I'm not saying that. I saw somebody
no.
say that in the chat. It's just
No, it's not. No, it's not. And some of this may be generational too, where some of that stuff is more acceptable, and as we kind of pivot as a society where these things are out in the open more, they're being addressed more, they're being taken more seriously. But even in that regard, there's still a lot of work to be done, as evident by what's happening here with Activision Blizzard. But I do want to go back to the Cosby room, which is, I can't believe I still can't get over that, the Cosby suite. So he would also engage in harassment of Frisbee. We're going to call him Frisbee. Would also engage in harassment of females. That his suite was nicknamed the Crosby Suite after alleged rapist Bill Crosby. Again, now that piece of the article, again, I don't know when the allegations took place, when they went more mainstream in 2013 for Cosby, but anyhow, but the Cosby Suite
was also coming from Kotaku.
Yeah, yeah. So the Cosby Suite was more of just a nickname. Was more than just a nickname or joke. Based on images and comments from Frisbee posted on his Facebook, supplied to Kotaku by former developer Blizzard. It was reportedly a booze-filled meeting place where many, including Frisbee, would pose with actual portraits of Bill Cosby while smiling. It was also a hotspot for informal networking. At BlizzCon, 3 sources told Kotaku where people looking to make inroads at the company would go to meet and hang out with some of its top designers. And there's a picture of Kettle One vodka bottles, Inca Cola, which actually is one of my favorite colas. It was kind of interesting to see that because I typically don't see Inca anywhere else, but because it's a Latin American cola. But anyhow, it looks like there's like a box of whiskey, like, I don't know, something there. And there's like solo cups in this room, ginger ale. Looks like there's tonic water. I guess they're making vodka tonics. So there's alcohol in this room, right? Now, Frisbee is not, he's not responded to Kotaku. He's deleted most of his social media presence. I'm not surprised by that. But he's clearly seen in a lot of these pictures. And also one ex-Blizzard source familiar with the people presenting the pictures identified an HR representative as one of the Blizzard employees present in the hotel room. So that's interesting.
Wait, come again with that?
An ex-Blizzard employee identified somebody in that picture as an HR representative of the company. Now, I thought that was interesting. Now, again, I don't know. We can't.
Okay,
go ahead.
But when we talk about alcohol, right? Like I'm sure you've been to sort of corporate office holiday parties. There's alcohol
I have
around.
Oh yes,
right. Like the mere presence of alcohol, I don't think is damning at an event like this. And if you ever gone to like a convention just for work,
there's
those
alcohol,
things
yeah.
Like I went
to
a Vegas convention once, and whoa boy.
Yeah, but I think the insinuation is he's in that picture with the Cosby picture.
Crazy.
So again, it's the optics. It's he's it's the optics of like. Again, I mean, you're right. But we also don't know, because sometimes companies will say, no drinking, when you're at an event. Like I've worked for companies like, you should not. We don't, no consuming of alcohol, beverages, things like that, because there have been usually my experience is because there's been incidences with alcohol has been, the cause of some kind of incident or something, or whatever the case is. But I think again, we don't know. We also don't know what the context of that, was alcohol okay? Was it normal? Was it the HR not, what I mean? Like those are things we don't know, right? And again, not to defend anything that's going on here, but anyhow, I just think that it's it's interesting that considering everything that's going on, it almost kind of paints a picture that maybe HR was in cahoots in a way, right? I could see how someone could read that and think maybe HR was kind of in cahoots. But again, I think we also don't know what we don't know, the context of the picture and what was
I
going on
mean,
there.
I've always looked at HR, and you can probably speak to this much better than I can. I'm very close, like college buddies with one of the HR people in Facebook. And I know a bunch of other HR people, but even in the companies that I work for and have worked for, I never feel like HR is there for me. I feel like HR is there for the company, right?
I
And
agree with you 110%, man. I've never felt like HR was like, "Hey, we got your back." I feel like they got the company's back and that's it.
right, and their job is to like, make sure there's no they're managing people, but really they're the sort of filter so that the company, doesn't look bad, right? And that's really what it is. And I've heard talk of people saying, unions would fix this. I don't know that it would. I mean, what do you think about that?
I mean, why do we need unions to for people to treat each other decently? You know what I mean? Like I don't
Well,
agree with that.
it's not about treating people decently. It is saying that a union would then have sort of representatives
I
that
see what
are
you're saying.
there
Yeah.
for the employees to push back against HR and the other corporate structures that don't have their best interests in mind. And I don't know that that unionizing is the answer, because unions, yes, when they were created, yeah, but I feel like unions today are just their own levels of bureaucracy, and they don't, in at least the unions that I have been a part of in my storied work career, have really just been about preserving the union and not caring too much about the the people. But that's
Yeah,
only
that's
my point of view.
that's a great question. I mean, that's actually a great point, Everborn. Like I never, there was a lot of talks about I can't even talk to the man unionizing the industry because of things like crunch, things like that. Like people underpaid in the industry. When that was going around, when that was a hot topic or hot conversation, people brought that up. But to your point, maybe that could be a solution because now you have that arm, you have those resources to really push back internally at HR. Because if you can't go to HR, I would say if you can't go to HR, who can you go to?
That's when there's no union, no one. And this is the idea. When there's like a real like union and you have an issue, you go to the union and they solve that, right? But again, unions come with a lot of other issues and baggage. So I think
Unions aren't
tread
perfect
lightly.
either.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not. I mean, let's face it, unions are not perfect. I mean, they have are they positive things that unions do? I think absolutely yes. But I think there's my mom was part of a union. She went through a discrimination case, and I mean they went to bat for her big time. You
Yeah,
know,
but
but
the
but
flip side of this is, go ahead.
no, go ahead, man.
I was saying the flip side of it is just like you're seeing some of this in the chat, and that's kind of what I was alluding to. Look at the DMV or the MTA or the postal service when you try to go in there and you want any sort of customer service, and you got people that know no matter what they do, that they're protected by that union, so that they sort of protect the bad employees,
Yeah.
right?
Well, that's kind
And
of
I and
the flip
I
side of the coin. Yeah.
and I've said this many times, like, I think we grossly underpaid teachers, and they're some of the most important roles in society. I think if you got rid of the unions and paid people six-figure salaries as teachers, you would get the best and the brightest, and our kids would be more well educated. So the reason their salaries are so low is partly because of those unions for teachers. So how about we just we pay for the best and brightest, and we have a competitive market for our educators. But that's another conversation for another show. But
Yeah,
it
exactly. Yeah.
just speaks to this union issue, that it's not. A lot of people like to think that there are simple answers to complex problems, and they'll say, well, just unionize, that's the answer. No, that's not the answer. Yes, and I'll say, um, I actually think that, just as a way to fix this problem, because that's what people want to know, is sort of, how do we fix this? How do we stop from happening again? Or just how do we get better as a society? And I don't know if there's another law that needs to be on the books for that, or another uh, government body that will have oversight over these things, or even a self-governed thing like the ESRB, which was suggested on Boom Show and on the gaming circle that we do on Saturday. I don't know that that's the case. I think that um, people should have that power, and we do have that power, and we're seeing that now. So when you look at the walkout that happened today, when you look at the mass sort of release of everyone's salaries that happened the other day, when you look at the fact that people spoke up and brought this to the attention of the state of California, and now they are being investigated, and we will see what comes of that. And we will see that more people coming forward gives more people courage to come forward. And maybe we'll see there are people talking about things at Ubisoft or Ubisoft, however you say it, I don't know. But the point is, once we come together as like individuals, right? Because part of the reason this has been going on so long is because people were sort of worried about their jobs. And if you got a mortgage and a family, I get it. But if you saw that happening in front of you, would you not say anything?
You asking me the
Right?
question?
Yeah, I'm asking you. I'm asking
No,
you. I'm asking everybody in the
I
chat.
would absolutely
And
say so.
and
I would say something,
if
because
if there were more BRAPs and more of anybody else who would say something, this wouldn't have been able to continue. So I do think we as a society have to take more ownership. This is not just on men either, it's on women as well, right? We have to kind of get together and realize we do have that power, right? And if people sort of get together, and then there's the issue of sort of boycotting, which we can talk about if you want, and that's another can of worms when you begin to think about that. But I think people coming forward is going to be the real answer, right? I don't
yeah, I agree with
trust
that. Yeah.
a new law or some government body to do this. I want like people to come forward, and if you make an accusation, it should be vetted. I don't believe in trying people in the court of public opinion either, because I feel like we kind of like to do that a lot, especially today, and that's actually a very kind of big concern of mine. But we can talk about that another time as well. But I think people coming forward, and more people coming forward, and we'll see what happens next. Because I feel like there's going to be a mass exodus of talent at Activision as a result of all of this, at the very least.
Yeah, I could see that. And it could, it could make it harder for them to recruit, to hire people, to come to their studios. I mean, that's a real thing. You don't want to, as competitive as that job market is, that industry, you don't want to put yourself in a position where people don't want to come there and work, and then you're not getting the best talent available, and that could be detrimental. The other thing I was going to say is, one more thing before you wrap up this topic, is that one of the other images, so one of the other images from the same Facebook album that showed the screenshots for the 2013 group they called it the BlizzCon Cosby Crew. That's what they referred to them as, by the way, themselves.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, in it, former Blizzard designer David Kosek writes, "I'm gathering the hot chicks for the cause." I'm just so when I read that, I'm like, so when you hear the allegation of like that frat boy environment, that's some frat boy shit right there.
100%.
It really is. Like, yeah, and and then Frisbee says, "Bring them. You can't marry all of them, Alex." Kosick Alex wrote back to I think Frisbee, says you can't marry all of them, Alex. He goes, I can. I'm Middle Eastern, and that's what Frisbee responded. And
well, okay, I really want to clarify this though. Like,
uh-huh.
if those are guys talking to each other and they're not like doing that in front of someone, making them feel uncomfortable, I like, people have to be able to joke around and say ridiculous things with their friends. Like, if you're not saying that in a public forum, or you're not saying that to someone to belittle them or make them feel uncomfortable, like, I don't see anything wrong with talking like that amongst your friends. You know what I mean? Like, people make off-color jokes. Like, I don't want to police speech or bad, you know what I mean? Like, poor taste jokes and things like that in a private setting. And any one of us that says we don't make like jokes that we wouldn't say in public or wouldn't say around a person if we thought it would make them feel comfortable. Anyone that says that they don't do that is I don't know if I can curse here, but it is not telling the truth. I think we all make off-color jokes around people that are, that are friends, family, whatever. Now that does not mean you get the right to go and say that to some stranger who isn't cool with that. But I would need to know the context in which he said that, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, I'll say this. Obviously, in a private setting, I see what you're getting at, but I think more than anything, this highlights the mindset that was brought to the workplace.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
Like, yeah, and I said this on Boom Show, like, you are at work. None of that, you know what I mean? Like, I make the worst dad jokes at work, and I don't really make friends at work, right? Because I'm not gonna joke with the people at work the way I do with the guys that I grew up with or my family, right? And so, I saw someone say that in the chat, and that's true as well. Like, if you're in a professional environment, there's probably no place for that. But if it's at a convention in Vegas or whatever, I feel like I can understand, as long as they weren't hurting anybody that was in the room at that time.
Yeah, but I understand your point. I think what this hints at or shows is that in the allegations of what's being presented here by the state of California, and then people coming out on Twitter, former female Activision employees, saying yes, this stuff did happen. Again, I think that the trouble, that the problem that I see here with some of this commentary, and I get it's their Facebook page, they can say whatever they want, I get that, but there's still repercussions to that too, I think. And I think that the mindset here, I think what they're showing is that that mindset, that conversation, that piece that we're seeing, I'm gathering hot chicks for the specifically referring to the Cosby suite.
Yeah.
I think that speaks to the mindset and the culture of Activision there, and which potentially led to, the mistreatment of women and the harassment of women is really what I'm getting at here.
And that's another thing. I think people think, because I'm very big on people should be able to say what they want, but if you want to say what you want, you have to wear the big boy pants and deal with the consequences of what you want. Because freedom of speech does not mean freedom of getting called on bullshit, right? So if you said something like that and it didn't come out and it doesn't hurt the company, fine, but it has come out. And now it's looking bad on the whole company because people are speaking like that. So now you kind of got to pay the consequence for that. And that's why I don't say crazy stuff online.
The other thing too is, this was said on Facebook. Other people can see this. Other coworkers, that could be a potential. That could be grounds.
First mistake.
That could be grounds for firing. But that could be grounds for firing. Like, yeah, I've seen people get fired for making off-color commentary on social media that didn't align with, the company's, their mission, vision, values, right? Like we don't, because every company does have that. Well, I think most companies do. Where I've seen people get fired for making comments that were just like, holy shit, you really said that on Facebook, and someone saw it and was like, hey, did you see what someone, and then, and then it becomes a thing, and I've seen people not get job offers because companies will do background checks on your Facebook account or your social media account.
When I was Citigroup, they were like, you basically can't. There's like a clause in the contract that says that, right? Like if they catch you making the company look bad, you're done.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
If you don't get caught, fine. But if some shit blows up, and then they're gonna say you were an Activision employee, or in my case, a Citigroup employee, like now you're in trouble, right? So that's what it is. That comes with the freedom of speech. You didn't go to jail, but the whatever company you work for is not the federal government, so they are under no obligation to let you talk smack that's gonna blow back on the company.
Yeah, no, that's true, man, and that's I see people misconstrued that freedom of speech with it applying to public corporations. It doesn't, and it's one of those head scratchers. I'm like, you really don't know how freedom of speech works in this country? Like, it's really, but no, that's this thing again. I think to kind of wrap up this topic here, I think it's. I think this thing's going to get worse, and I said it last week. I think this is going to get worse. And I think there's going to be more stuff that comes out, and I just wouldn't be surprised, Everborn, if we're more appalled, if you will, but some of the things that come out from Activision.
I wouldn't be surprised if we don't hear this from some of our favorite companies.
Oh, absolutely. Well, right? I mean, like I said, we've heard it from Ubisoft, heard it from Rockstar. Maybe not.
Ubisoft's
maybe
not one of my favorite companies, but I understand.
Yeah,
making the same goddamn game and not putting out a split to sell, but we're not talking about that.
Yeah. Hey, did you see Shawn Layden's comments about Game Pass?
Oh my God!
So let's talk about that because that was interesting.
Shawn Layden can't count. That's what I learned. Right? If you read that article, he says you need 500 million subscribers, and first of all, Game Pass is $15 a month, right? But let's just go with the $10 option, right? 500 million subscribers, like what is that, like $5 billion a month, which is $60 billion a year just from the subscription. That's what you need to make. How many big budget games does Sony make a year? 3 or 4? Right?
Yeah, maybe 3 or 4, maybe, yeah.
So if it's 3 or 4 $100 million games, that's $400 million in a year. And that's not really a year because those games are in development for multiple years, so you amortize that cost. In what world do you need 500 million subscribers? None of what he said makes sense. And the whole audience is now dumber for having heard it, and may God have mercy on his soul. And if you remember what movie that's from, I will give you 2 points.
I actually don't remember what movie that's from, but no, but I was kind
Happy
of
Gilmore.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't. That God, I saw that movie. God, years, such a long time ago. But what I was going to say was that, it just didn't make sense. He says this.
Billy Madison, sorry, not Happy Gilmore.
Oh, Billy Madison. He says, God, Billy Madison came out and was like when I was like in high school. He says it's very hard to launch a $120 million game on a subscription service. He's like charging $10 a month, right? He's like, you pencil it out, you're going to have 500 million subscribers before you start to recoup your investment. That's why you need to take a loss leading position to try and grow that base. But still, if you only have 250 million consoles out there, you're not going to get a 500 million subscribers. So how do you circle that square? Nobody has figured that out. Now, here's the thing that I'm thinking. Now, I wonder if he's also referring to, because again, you're right. Like the math doesn't add up, right? Like you said, like it just doesn't. What is it? 150. What was it? 100? No, I'm sorry. I'm getting this wrong. $120 million, and you get 500 million subscribers, like you're well over that 120 million threshold. Now, maybe he's referring to, like all in, right? With that like the infrastructure, the cost of, maintaining servers, investment of infrastructure, maintaining infrastructure, upgrading infrastructure, muddy hatting games. I mean, I don't know. That's
all of that's like fantastic. I think what I grok from what he said is that right now a service like that wouldn't make sense for Sony. And I think that Microsoft is a very different position. I'm going to bring up the Netflix argument in a second. And if someone tells me Netflix is in debt, I'm going to slap them, but we'll come back to that in a second because they are in debt, but that doesn't matter. But what I'm saying is Microsoft.
They're going to bring that up, man. That's why I'm laughing.
I know it, right? But Microsoft is in a position because they have other lines of revenue, right, that dwarf the Xbox division, right? When you look at their cloud business, their more personal computing business, which encompasses Surface, Xbox, and Windows, is $14 billion in revenue, right, this quarter, right? Or maybe it's for the year, whatever it is. But the point is they have that, then they have the Office division, then they have the cloud business, and they just lost a $10 billion contract with the federal government because Amazon feels like they deserve all
the cloud
contracts, right? But the federal government has said they're gonna dole it out between the two of them, so it's fine, and their stock price ended up going up, right? But my point is they have so much other businesses going on that they can make a bet that will take 10 years to pay off. Because in their mind, they are looking at Game Pass as something that could rival Office 365 in terms of revenue, and the Xbox division can be just as big as a pillar in the company as Office or Windows, right? And if it takes them 10 years to grow that base, because I think they see Game Pass as something that could be 100 million subs, right? And will they raise the price along the way? Maybe, but they can only do it when they have enough content to where people have no choice but to stay. That's why Netflix can raise their prices. But none of that should concern you as a gamer because it's not coming out of your pocket. Now, I have stocks in Microsoft, so I pay attention to this stuff a lot. But anyway, the point I'm trying to make is it doesn't make sense for Sony because PlayStation is the largest revenue earner in that company, right? They actually used to sell insurance in Japan, and that was the biggest money that they made, but not anymore, right? So maybe it doesn't make sense to PlayStation, who sort of needs the ROI a lot sooner than, say, Microsoft would. But Microsoft can afford to throw tens of billions of dollars into this thing before seeing a profit, and they're okay. Sony cannot afford to do that. If you don't believe Microsoft can throw tens of billions of dollars into things, they almost paid $40 billion for Yahoo. They bought Nokia for the same price they paid for Bethesda and shut that down, right? They bought Mixer. That didn't work, right? I think Aquantic is another thing that they had purchased. So they can do this, and they've look at the Surface, right? The Surface is now $1 billion business, $1 billion a quarter business, even though they're losing numbers now because of chip shortages. But the point is, that is the way Microsoft thinks about things as a company, right? And now I'll come to Netflix. Netflix regularly, and they have some 200 million subscribers, they regularly do movies that cost $200 million or $150 million budgets. They do several of those a year. And they're spending $20 billion on content, right? Because they know they need to weather the storm of all the other subscription services. And the thing that I always, and I'll wrap my point up here, the thing that always sort of makes me laugh is that how many times are we going to see like old people clutching their purses and gnashing their teeth at the sovereignty of their lawns about subscription service is going to kill this industry. It didn't happen with Apple Music. Beyonce is still putting out albums, right? That didn't mean you stopped getting the AAA high content stuff, right? Netflix and Disney Plus and all that doesn't mean you don't still get Marvel movies, right? It's not going to kill the industry. It just, in my book, allows for creators to take bigger chances, right? Because right now, look at The Irishman on Netflix, right? That movie was nominated for Oscars, right? And Netflix in the last few years has won several Oscars, but no one would make that movie because they didn't have an audience to sell it to in theaters, and it had this huge $250 million budget. But on the service, what they wanted was eyeballs to keep their subscribers there, bring in new ones, and then once you get them, keep your hooks in them by continuing to release more content. And that's all any subscription service is going to do, and it is not going to kill any medium. And another thing about Sony, they always say these things before they turn around and do the same and follow suit. So if you don't think Sony's going to move to a place where they have day and date on PC and in their own subscription service, I have a bridge to sell you in Brooklyn. But we'll see when that happens.
I mean, yeah. I mean, to your point about them going day and date PC, that may be something that happens. And you know, like the thing with subscriptions, it's interesting. It's not going to be the death of the industry. It's going to be an addition to the industry. You know, it's not going to be. It's not going to be like, you know, I know. And the other thing I see is that people talk about, you know, subscription services being the absolute future of gaming. You know, I'm not on that 100% on that wagon, if you will. I think that it will be an addition to. I think subscriptions will be a big part of gaming, but I do think that you'll still have people that are going to go out and purchase games, right? I think you'll still see that. You know, maybe not to the extent that we're doing it now, but I still think it's going to be a part of gaming.
I still buy Nas albums.
There you go, man. See, I mean, like, you know, and not every game's going to go to subscription per se. Maybe not now, maybe sometime in the future. You know, I also don't think, you know, I think cloud will be part of the future. Although I think I'll be an old man until it gets to the point where it's, you know, like playing on native hardware, you know, in your living room. Although, I mean, xCloud, for all intents and purposes, I think is pretty good. Doesn't work well with every game, but there's some games that it works really well with.
The dark horse for xCloud is not the mobile thing, because I think that experience by and large has just been horrible for me. But I do think it's going to be a big deal on the browser, like xbox.com/play, and you can go and play on your like cheap laptop or cheap PC and kind of play all these games. I think that and these streaming sticks are gonna I think they're gonna be a big deal. And I agree we're not there today. And I actually see that how you see subscription services, which is it will be an addition to. And by the time it's like mainstream and that's what people do, that will not happen until by and large people don't want consoles anymore. I think Sony and Microsoft will sell us consoles as long as we are buying them.
That is a great point. Yes, thank you for saying that, because I think people think that like cloud gaming is going to automatically kill consoles. That's not how that works. I mean, you got to remember, you know, 7 years ago, people were running, and the media was too. They were writing articles that console gaming was going to be dead because of mobile. Do you remember that?
And then it turns out movie theaters are dead.
Oh man, I love my movie theaters though. I love my movie theaters. So
I hear you, man.
But
I just
you know,
bought a nacho machine and I have it now.
Oh, I saw that.
Yeah, man. I said that I'm not going back to the theaters unless it's like a Marvel movie, but like after the last Marvel movie, I'm kind of like, you know what? I could deal with that 45-day window.
I got to be honest with you, I wasn't impressed with that last Marvel movie either.
I think I would have been impressed in 2017 when it should have came out. We should have made that instead of Captain Marvel, but that is another show and another topic for another day. But continue your point.
Yeah. Um, so it's gonna be interesting. His comments are interesting, to say the least. I don't think that. Again, I don't know the math. I don't know. Again, I think maybe he may not. I'm giving the benefit of the doubt here. I don't know what he was thinking, or but maybe he was referring to the total bill, if you will. And maybe in that regard it makes sense, but not just
And
making.
also for Sony or any other company really, like remember, these costs can be amortized by the fact that Microsoft already has the servers in place for their Azure business. They, even though like AWS is the largest like revenue earner, they have the largest server footprint for any sort of cloud provider, right? And so it doesn't cost Microsoft as much to, and that's just like with the cloud and anything, and these servers and things that we were talking about, but it doesn't cost Microsoft as much to do something like that as it would for Sony, who would have to do all the same things and then pay Microsoft at some level of markup to use their servers, or pay Amazon or Google or whatever.
Yeah, what's interesting is that every time we have this conversation about something Game Pass related, a lot of people bring up Sony, PlayStation Now, and there's some people that think that Sony needs to absolutely copy what Microsoft's doing with Game Pass. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. I don't know. In my opinion, I do think though, if they did decide to go that route, I think given the popularity of their IPs,
they would if Sony was doing day and date, their subscriber numbers would grow at a much faster rate than Microsoft's would.
I was about to say that they could own.
They would hit 100 million subs long before Game Pass would.
They could own that market. I really believe that. I mean, Nintendo probably could too. You look at Nintendo
but it
games.
would require them taking a loss up front, which I don't think that either the board doesn't want to do or they can't afford to do. And people pretend like Sony's broke. They got $44 billion in the bank.
Yeah, right? In cash. Yes, they do.
In cash money. So they're not. And another thing that people say that kind of like annoys me, like I get that Microsoft's a big company, but having a $2 trillion market cap doesn't mean you have $2 trillion to spend, right? I think.
Thank you for clarifying that, by the way.
Right, that is just outstanding share multiplied by share price. That's it. That's all market cap comes from. It tells investors in the world how much this company is actually worth. Now, to be clear, Microsoft does have nearly $200 billion in the bank, and I think you will see more acquisitions from both Microsoft and Sony, specifically because, look, no politics, right? But I'm sure we will all agree, whatever side of the aisle that you are on, when a Democrat is in office, corporate taxes tend to go up, right? And there's talk of repatriating that money, and we hear on the news every day fear of inflation, right? So right now, your money is, your stock price is high, and people do acquisitions with some combination of stocks and cash, right? The money will be less valuable if these fears of inflation turn out to be true. Interest rates are super low, and you are going to be taxed on this money. So instead of having it sitting around waiting to be taxed, you buy a studio. In this case, in the case of the Xbox division or Sony or anyone else, you buy a studio that can produce content that will bring in more money than it would have earned sitting in the bank. It's very simple, and they will continue to do it, and that is just where we are. And the more people buy things, the more people will inflate prices for sale, and the more people will have to buy things because they'll be afraid that other things will get bought, and that is just the nature of the beast, so to speak. But
that's a great point, Evan Moore. By the way, I'm glad you brought that up about inflation and it doesn't make sense to have your money just sitting in an account because the rates are so low anyway. You're not going to get anything back per se. And then you're right, the pending inflation, if you will, if your dollar is worth less, your buying power is worth less, right? I mean, you don't have that ability to buy where you were maybe a couple years ago.
And while the stock price is high, right? Because right, listen, the market is overvalued right now. We know that, right? This is the reason Microsoft could lose half, or
the housing market,
half their value. all of it. Sell your house now if you can, right? But everything is overvalued right now, and it will go down. So if you buy something with money that will be worth less later, or stocks that will be worth less later, it's much easier. So you're actually getting it cheaper in real money, right? Like if you look at your, I don't know what it's called, the cost basis or whatever, right? Like, so it only makes sense to do this now. Any business person will tell you that that's what's going to happen. And I think the only reason you haven't seen even more acquisitions are not because they're trying to wait to integrate Bethesda first. They are, but they're in talks with everyone before we hear about it. And I think because it's a seller's market, people are inflating prices, right? Like if Satya Nadella goes out and says, yes, we're buying more studios, and I'm a studio that wants to get sold, I'm like, oh, you got money. I want more than I'm worth. And then obviously Microsoft or anyone else doing an acquisition have people that vet those things and say it may be worth it or not. So I think you will see more acquisitions, but I don't think it will be as fast, because I think studios know that they're hot right now. And so it's this seller's market.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny when I talk about the housing market, but being, over inflated, if you will. But no, those are great points. I mean, I think that's why you're going to see probably some more acquisitions. And I think you're going to see it from Sony too. I think Jim Ryan's been pretty clear about that. They just recently acquired, what was it? Housemark. I don't know how I forgot that. And then you see Tencent acquiring Sumo Digital for like $1.5 billion, which is kind of interesting purchase for Sumo Digital, given that they have primarily, have worked on or helped studios complete games, and then Tencent picks them up for 1.5. And then if you consider the acquisition of
Playdemic
Insomniac
by EA, but hold on, Playdemic by EA. What did they pay for that? 1.4 or 1.104,
something like that. Yeah, and then you look at
Playdemic. They make a mobile game.
Yeah, but then you look at like Insomniac that Sony picked them up for like two like $250 million. I mean I mean, like, look at that. That's a steal for that studio.
Yeah,
right?
It was the time. It wasn't a buyer's market in that time.
Yeah. So
and I will never forgive Microsoft for letting EA get their grubby mitts on BioWare.
Oh, we're not going to talk about that.
They could have had that, and I think the world of Mass Effect would have been very different today if that was the case. But
it is what it is. It is what it is, exactly. So the other thing that Layden, and I want to bring this up too, the other interesting point that Layden talked about, we talk about acquisitions. He feels like the consolidation in the gaming industry is bad for diversity. And I can see his point. But when everything, when you only have a couple players owning everything, and then what happens to diversity in gaming when everyone's trying to make the same kind of game? I think we see a little bit of that with AAA games right now, where it's open world, these open sandbox adventures. I mean, look, Sony, for better or for worse, kind of has their blueprint, right, of games, action adventure, third person, whatever.
Story driven,
episodic, not episodic, I'm sorry, but like very narrative driven. You're like almost like a movie in some ways, right?
I mean, it's in there. And that's another thing. I think a lot of people. Oh, by the way, are you still hearing that weird noise? I forgot to turn off the thing. Are you hearing crazy?
I haven't. In the background? I don't think I'm. I mean, I'm not hearing it right now. No.
Okay. If anybody in the chat is hearing it, I can turn it off. But I think these companies kind of bring their DNA into what their uh, offerings are in, as they evolve, right? And I think, listen, Sony is a movie studio, right? That's just a fact. Sony Pictures, right? So they probably have movie scripts lying around all the time that maybe wouldn't play in a theater, but would be great for a different medium, like a game, right? And I think you're always going to get stories, and probably some of the best stories, from Sony, right? That's what they bring to it. And Microsoft is a software and services company. And I think all these, they're bringing that DNA, those core competencies, into the products that they're launching. So I think that, a service like Game Pass has, Microsoft sort of written all over it, right? Like, it's even, Microsoft that even brought in us paying these console, like paying subscription fees to consoles in the first place. I don't like Xbox Live was there. I know you were a beta tester. I was telling people the other day too. I was a beta tester as well. I'm not going to tell you guys what my old name was. BRAP. I'll tell you off. OBM's here, but I think he knows. Please don't repeat it. But now you have PlayStation Plus, right? And that's because of Xbox Live, right?
We got hold on. We got an issue here in the live chat. Hold on a sec here.
What's going on? All right. But my point is, I think all of these companies kind of bring that to it, and a lot of people, if you'll allow me here, I think a lot of people kind of define what sort of AAA games are, kind of based on that kind of model that Sony has, and I think that consolidation is bad as a whole, yes, but there are places where it makes sense, right? Like, if a studio is going to go out of business, right, and someone comes and picks them up and they fold them into their organization, I think that that's on a whole good, right? Like so, and I think, and we'll see this right now, I think we're seeing a little bit of this, like as we speak, where you look at what the subscription model brings, and you see the diversity in what is being offered right now, right? Like, so this week I put out a tweet earlier. I said I've been playing Death's Door all week, right? And then Flight Sim comes out, and I just did a flight with my girlfriend from Montego Bay to Santiago in the Dominican Republic, right, where she's from. And then I got accepted to the Halo Flighting, and I will be playing that. And then I already have the Ascent pre-downloaded, and these are all high quality. People are saying Death's Door may be a contender for Game of the Year, right? And so you're getting that diversity from Death's Door to Ascent to Flight Sim to Halo. I think you are getting the diversity that we want, and there's not a need, because I think if everyone's on their own and they have to justify these budgets, they're going to take less risks, right? And when you have $100 million budget games,
OBM keyboard,
the people funding $100 million games are very risk averse, so they're going to do what works. And this is why you're continuing to see these service-based games. You're continuing to see Sony, even though they are masters at it, they're making that same kind of game over and over again, because they know that works and that sells. So with the consolidation that you're seeing on the Microsoft side, you're seeing more diversity, because the goal is to keep people subscribing, so they need diversity. So I think it's a little more complex than just saying consolidation brings homogeneity.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. OBM, your keyboard is very loud.
Oh shit! Sorry about that. A few apologies. I got to be more aware of that. And also, I wanted to.
It sounds like you're beating up the keyboard. It's like bah, bah,
No,
bah,
that's
bah.
what happens when he has a mechanical keyboard. I can tell.
Yeah, I do. So sorry about that, guys. But anyways, hello. Thanks for having me
hello,
on. And I do apologize about stopping in late today. I know Enrique, I told you at the end. Yeah, I I was planning on to be here a little bit earlier, but we had, with the emergent or the out of nowhere drop the last couple of days for the Halo news, we ran our show emergency last second, and so thanks for waiting for me to pop on over. And where did everybody go? They're not playing the beta yet, are they?
I have no idea. Slow-Mo's MIA and Forte's MIA. B Money and Eric Jackson did tell me they weren't going to be able to make it tonight, but I'm not sure where Slow-Mo and B Money, or not B Money, Forte, or hopefully everything's okay with those two gentlemen. But no, man, thanks for hopping on. I appreciate it, man. I know you just got off. You had me at Halo podcast, where obviously you were talking about Halo, but no, I'm glad you're here, OBM, because actually,
tired of hearing me talk.
No, not at all. No, it's funny, Everborn. I mean, I've always find you very insightful. There's a couple times where you brought some things up. I'm like, oh, I got to resist talking about it because it would be a great conversation. You know what I mean? But no, OBM, your timing is actually perfect because we are going to talk about Halo, the Halo Infinite Beta, which kicks off tomorrow.
Wait, did you want me to talk about the acquisition stuff at all, or are you guys done with that topic?
Yeah, actually, if you want to chime in, man, because it was kind of an interesting. I know we talked about it, offline about Layden's comments about consolidation and how consolidation kills diversity or potentially hurts it. I thought everyone brought some great points up there. What are your thoughts, man?
Yeah, I mean, this is a topic I actually do like to talk about because, I did some research on it, for Xbox era. And we I had an article out there regarding the buyouts. And one of it, when I did it, it was more in response to what Jason Schreier wrote, because he actually wrote something very similar to what Layden said. He actually went into more detail, though, why he was concerned with what Microsoft and really what the rest of the
correct or better than Sean's? Was Jason Schreier's math better than Sean's?
Yeah, no. Jason Schreier is better at math than Sean. I think
so he can count. Good.
I think my son's better at math than Sean. But the point of what he. So I do want to. I want the reason I was typing. I was actually looking for his quote while you guys are talking, and that's why I was pounding it on my keyboard. And so I found it here, and he said at that time,
aggressively pounding. I'm
sorry,
man. It's so funny, man.
I deserve crap for that, but I won't be pounding away anymore while we're for the rest of the show.
Oh, no, it's all good, man. It's all good.
But what he said in that article, he said an industry dominated by a handful of big companies could eventually lead to creative stagnation and other symptoms of monopolization, like limited choices and higher prices. It's great to see developers finding financial success, but it's hard not to be worried about the long-term ramifications for the video game fans and makers. By the time we see the results, it may be too late. So he was basically writing this in reference to not just what Microsoft was doing, but what some of the other companies were doing. Now, I nicely kind of went back at that a little bit, and the reason is because I think at a high level that makes sense. When you think of consolidation, you think of less competition, right? You think of there's less options for consumers. That means that the companies have more power, consumers have less. But what I think was missing from the context of those statements is really when you look at industries historically, not just gaming, but any industry, usually when they go through a growth state, there's a lot of segmentation. A lot of people try to get in, and it makes sense, right? Like when I see opportunity, when I hear the gaming industry is going to grow by 40%, it's already bigger than everything else. I want a piece of that pie. So a lot of companies will start to jump in. They will start to join, try to figure out how they're going to get more of that. And so that actually does, when industries go through that, you start to actually see a lot lot of competition, a lot of innovation. Now, as those industries mature, it's a normal thing as they mature that some of the companies don't get the piece of the pie they wanted. It doesn't work out. Like, for example, Google Stadia, Google may find a different lane or might get out altogether.
Can I say one thing, OBM, about Google Stadia? I actually don't think they ever had a plan for it, and I really think that it was a POC to offer that as a packaged cloud service to other game publishers. I think that's what Stadia was always supposed to be.
Yeah, they might.
And now they can say, hey, we have all this technology. Hey, EA, right? Hey, assholes at Activision. How about you start your own streaming service and you'll have the same latency and the access to stream directly from YouTube. And that's how you'll compete with the likes of Microsoft.
And that's a good point. And I think what you're going to find is people will find different lanes. They find different ways to, there are different niches within the whole entire industry where they can, support it, make money off of it, things like that. So, but what I guess the point is that, what happens is, a lot of them will join in, and then eventually, there will be this aspect of it where, right now there's, I don't know, eight platforms, either that are, if you look beyond just the consoles, we think always about the consoles and the 3 console makers, but really the way that gaming is going for the industry, it's not going to really be about consoles. It's going to just be about the platform that's going to meet the gamer, in many different ways. And there's like 8 companies right now that are either already established or have the money to be a player. And we'll have to kind of see what happens, with Epic, with Tencent money behind them, what happens with, Apple, what lane they take in the future, and now you see even Netflix jumping in. And so like, we'll see some consolidation, but that's not necessarily like a sign of an industry that's in trouble. Right now, what you're seeing is investment, and it's what they call vertical consolidation or vertical acquisitions, where bigger companies are buying the smaller ones underneath them as strategic acquisitions to empower their platforms. And what this is doing is it's actually infusing a lot of money into the entire industry, which is creating opportunity for everybody. You're seeing right now there's more developers in gaming than there's ever been. If you look at like the 360 generation and you just see, and I'm going to focus on the Xbox because that's the platform I cover. I don't know the exact numbers for PlayStation, but with the 360, if you go to Metacritic and you pull every game review they ever have on there, you'll find a little over 600 unique developers, including all the independents. If you do the same thing for the Xbox One, you'll find over 2,200 developers, including all the independents. And right now you're starting to see not only more independents jumping in, but you're starting to see them get better tools, get better investment. So right now these acquisitions they're part of a growing, healthy industry. And I think that you can't just say like I think the mistake some people make is this correlation. They correlate things, and it's like, acquisitions happen in industries that mature and start to lose the competition, over time, and the innovation that will happen in any industry that hits this maturity point. But right now, gaming is actually the reason why there's so much money being thrown around and so many people being bought out, is because there is so much potential and there is more competition than there's ever been. And the walls are coming down and actually empowering both the creators and the consumers more than they ever have. And so when Shawn Layden says that, I get it, like from a high level that can be true, but right now where the industry is, you're seeing this stuff because it is healthy. And I feel like as a consumer, it's in an exciting place. Even when Microsoft bought Bethesda, Sony will have more developers on their platform than they've ever had this generation. And not only more developers, you start looking at the independents, they're going to be making things that look like they're AAA at some point.
Can I to that point?
Yeah, go ahead.
OBM, so what I think what you're saying is sort of really spot on, and I think this proliferation of sort of tools that, like, just for example, right? Microsoft has this thing because they bought GitHub, right?
Yep.
and they have this thing called code spaces, right? And this allows you to spin up a virtualized workspace, and that is all. That can also include DirectX 12 Ultimate, which is their tool set for developing games on across all the Xbox SKUs and PC. And at one time, if you wanted to develop for console, you had to have access to get a developer kit, which could cost sometimes thousands of dollars. And even if you didn't need that, even once it was software, you had to have like the machines to do that. And now that all that can be virtualized, you are going to, and then you mix that with tools like Unreal Engine 5, and there's some other engines that people are working on, and maybe Microsoft will license out id Tech, I don't know. But people are like, if you're developing in mobile, Unity is an amazing tool if you're making a mobile game. If you're making something else, then you probably want to go with you want to go with Unreal. But those tools allow smaller teams to sort of punch above their weight. And I think that if you've tried, and you can go, and anyone that doesn't believe me, you can go and down Unreal Engine 5 right now and just see some of the things that they offer you, and realize that they're removing all these barriers so people can be sort of creative with what they make with smaller teams, and more importantly, smaller budgets. And again, when we talk about lack of innovation in terms of games, I think the exact opposite will happen, because when you have these subscription services, right? Because what's key right now is content, right? You see it across the movie industry, you see it across the music industry, you're seeing it in gaming, right? And because content is the sort of goal here with the subscription service, they want you to produce these interesting things, right? They are going to want to they're going to allow developers to take more risks, right? And people have said this already. I'm not the first person saying this, but Bethesda was falling into the trap where, oh my God, we're on our own. We have to react to this new world. Everything has to be a service. You're seeing that happen to Ubisoft right now with the next Assassin's Creed and whatever else they're doing, right? They're doing this game that no one asked for, that is not Splinter Cell again, just to get in on the free-to-play shooter aspect. You're going to have Assassin's Creed Infinite, all those things, because they're on their own and they need revenue generators. But if those revenue, if that's not the driver, and the driver is maintaining subscriptions and bringing new ones in, Bethesda can go back to being Bethesda and make single-player games and make passion projects. And that is the diversity we should be looking for. So,
right.
go ahead.
You probably know this, Everborn, as somebody who's now involved in game development, and I think you probably have heard from other developers. I know I've talked to developers, and they tell me, this goes back to last year when everybody was fighting over teraflops and SSD speeds, and I'm like, that's not the power. And I think I even heard you say on Ireland before too. Like, as a developer, that's not what's necessarily going to determine your innovation or your, like, at the end of the day, the things that holds back game design more than hardware power is the boardroom. It's like, do I have enough time and money? Do I have the tools that are going to help me they're going to take my imagination and get them out there, that I can start to get it, get it on the screen and start playing with the game and tweaking the game. And, talking to developers, like, that stuff is far more important than even the hardware itself. And that's what limits creativity, because when you need to have a team of 100 to 300 people to make a AAA game that takes 5 years, that's going to cost $120 million, as like Shawn Layden says, well, there's only so many risks. You have to make sure you check enough boxes to hit enough people out there, that game's going to end up paying for itself. It has to exist. It has to exist on its own. Like, it's basically on an island.
And they're going to look at metrics, right? And metrics are, by their definition, are things that we've already seen before, right?
Yes.
And Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh no, that's good. I think you're bringing up really good points, and so it goes back to like what I was, I guess the high level point, because we could probably talk about this for hours. There's a lot of things going on in the game industry that are very exciting, and they are actually giving some power back to the creativity of the industry, the diversity of the industry,
Exactly.
Because what happens when you don't need over 100 people to make a linear action adventure narrative driven game that looks AAA? What if you only need a team of 20 people? Like, you see the Stalker, what is it? Stalker 2 is a smallish team. The Ascent is 12 people. Go ahead.
So Obium, I got a question for you, because look, these are great points across the board. And I'm just sitting back here enjoying this conversation. I'm listening to the actual podcast. You know what I mean? Like, but no, I feel like I'm, in the live chat listening to some great conversation and great dialogue. But the other, I guess my question is this though, like, Layden's been in the business for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
It almost seems that you and Evermore and I don't know if I kind of agree with him to an extent, but I kind of don't either. But why is he seeing things differently then? And given his experience in the industry and his perspective, why is he seeing things differently? Is it because
his business model?
I think that is he came up in that company and that culture, and that's the way they do things there. I think again, he's hinted that needs to change. That in that article he mentioned something that that gaming, that it's ripe for disruption right now. So I think he sees the disruption as a thing. There's also talk about, he also mentions metaverse. I think the company he's working for now is kind of tied into
and that's
that.
the other key.
Can I just say one small thing? I said this before, and there are people that don't agree with me, but the thing is this: I think that if Game Pass and what Microsoft is doing as a whole is successful, and I mean that's the day and date PC model, that is the subscription service model, day and date also. If that becomes successful and they hit that 50, 100 million subscribers, it doesn't matter what Jim Ryan wants or whoever. The board members at Sony are going to look at what their closest competitor is doing. And if they're successful, the board members are going to say, why are we leaving that money on the table? Right?
Yeah. And I don't know
that to happen, and they will have no choice.
I don't know that Jim Ryan and Shawn Layden are necessarily seeing the industry the same way, and that's probably why he's not there. I mean, I feel like Jim Ryan does see some of these opportunities, some of the same things that you already see with Nix's, they're getting ready to bring more stuff to PC. They understand that that's going to be, that they need to meet the gamer where they're at. And if you actually listen to some of the old, and I say old, like even last year, there was executive interviews and things like that. They acknowledge where the industry is going, and they are going to position themselves to take advantage of it. They don't need to be the first mover in that. I think they believe they can kind of wait until those markets start to mature a little bit more. I think they feel comfortable that where they're at with console is going to carry them until the other, to the rest of this, to the subscriptions, to the the streaming and all this stuff start to really take hold in the mainstream, just like they did with the online gaming. They didn't go all in the same way that Microsoft did some years back, where Microsoft can kind of afford to do some of the things that they're doing. Sony is a Japanese company. At least that's where their home base is. They're going to be a little bit more conservative culturally. That's just a general thing.
There's another point to add to that, though, right? Like, the reason to wait is that I think that by the time they jump onto that model, the consumer will have been trained, and there's a cost to train the consumer, and Microsoft is sort of is taking the burden of that cost. And by the time the consumer is trained, they can just walk in, and maybe they'll be at the top of the market when they just walk in and basically get the cleanup kills like I plan on doing in Halo all this weekend, right?
And it's not always about being top of the market too, and that's the thing. A lot of, unfortunately, like our bubble, our community. No, it's not. And I know a lot of our community, a lot of the guys in the chat, a lot of the guys on Twitter, we look at it like it's a sport, like who's got the most revenue. At the end of the day in business, if you put in a lot more money, you expect a lot more money. Microsoft's in a position where really if they want to be a big player, they have to be the one that's going to train the customer and take the loss leaders, and take those hits early on. Whereas, Sony can do what Disney did, what what you're seeing other companies do in the subscription industry. And so there's like other studies on the subscriptions in general TV where one of the things that one of the findings, which is a pretty, I think, pretty accepted finding, is that the subscription industry is not a winner takes all. It is what they find is once a customer's been trained, they are willing to go for a second subscription. Is going to happen a lot faster than the first one did, and then a third one, and so on. And that's why you're even seeing in TV and movies where, Netflix had this giant lead on everybody. Keep in mind, TV and movies is smaller than gaming today, and gaming is expected to grow significantly over the next 5 years. So there's going to be a lot.
To be fair, in that analogy though, like a lot of other people, jumped up, but went nowhere, right? Like it's only Disney Plus that has found a lane. And they've done that through two ways. One, content, because they have sort of the MCU and Star Wars and Pixar, but also they jumped into the market at basically $6 a month, right? And that's how they were able to do that. But everyone else, it does not seem to have worked out for.
Well, I would say I'm not sitting in the boardroom of every one of these companies, but I would say, based on how, some of these companies have been around for a few years and now more are jumping in, that we don't really know what the actual metrics is. Like people look at the leader, they look at, Netflix with 200 million plus subscribers, but for some companies, 40 million subscribers is that number, right? I think in gaming, 50 million subscribers is going to be massive, especially when you factor in that their sole revenue is not just subscriptions. There's a lot of additional monetization that comes out of that engagement. So I think
a lot of people leave that out when they talk about the subscription model, right? There's a lot of revenue coming in from Steam and basically just GamePass subscribers, right? And then that's before you count, microtransactions and all those other things. So it is not just look at the subscription number and say you have to make this amount. It's a lot more complex than that. And the marketing that happens, like the subconscious marketing, I think that everyone talked about Outriders because it was in Game Pass.
Yeah.
Right. And that is a cost that you would have to pay. Right. So you get more players into it. So I'm just saying it's not that simple, but sorry, go ahead.
No. And like I said, we could probably talk on this for hours, and I'll try not to because it's BRAP show. I'll have to give it back to him eventually. But like I said, I could go on to this for a while because I think it's fascinating. It's actually very exciting. There's good because of one of the biggest challenges that's about to come up for the industry as we get all these new developers that come in there. Now you're going to have a lot of developers making games that are going to look impressive. They're going to come from smaller teams. They're going to look good enough for the mainstream. Like and we'll give the example of The Ascent. That's made by 12 people. To me, that's getting almost like AAA sort of reception from some areas for people that don't necessarily like go for indies. And you're going to start seeing, and this is not the end of it. This is kind of the beginning of it. Those tools are, wait till they have a few more years of some of the changes that have happened, with Unreal, for example. Now that photogrammetry is I don't know if I ever say that right, is something that's becoming like a free tool for developers. I heard from somebody that said like their assets just went through the roof, as an independent overnight because of the access to these things that are now free up front. And then like you were saying, Everborn, they're going to have developer kits in the cloud, so you can start to assemble a garage band of a developer, across different countries, just like Moon Studios was one that kind of set the standard on that, where they have all these developers working remotely from their homes in different countries, coming from different industries. You're going to start seeing a lot more of that. And it doesn't have to be at a high, those barriers are getting lower. the issue they're going to have is discoverability, and that's an issue they have today. But that's where subscriptions come in, and to me, it's not just about the individual game. It's about exposing the general consumer to new genres, to allowing them to take more risks. We saw Death's Door had 100,000, downloads or whatever, 100,000 users, which it is an amazing, from 2 people. And I think what's happening is because, I hear this sometimes on Twitter. It's like, oh, you got these like the Xbox guys capping for indies that they never played. You know what? You're right, guys. I never used to talk about indie developers 3-4 years ago. I started to play those games because it was no risk to me. And I started finding, I really like these roguelites, I like these different genres that I never used to play. And now something like Death's Door comes out. It's like, yeah, it's an easy purchase, $17. It's not a risk because I know I like these types of games. And so what you're going to start to see is it really starts to bring it opens up. We're no longer fishing in these like little ponds.
Another thing I want to say about this is kind of a little bit separate, but I think it's on the same kind of tangent. I want, when we're talking about where the industry evolves to, you said something in the beginning that I wanted to touch on, which is about sort of, it is more about an ecosystem than it is about a specific piece of hardware, and the content becomes at the center, right? So if you are BRAP and you want the best of everything and you want to run all your updates and your all the bullshit that comes along with PC gaming, right?
That's slander, sir.
You'll be able to experience your content that way, but also you will also be able, like me, and you want to play in your living room, and then you can pick up and go and continue the content to experience that content wherever you are. It doesn't matter what the hardware is, right? Console generations are sort of, yes, they're to upgrade like hardware, but PC gamers upgrade hardware all the time. Generations is a console thing that is sort of designed to keep you in this one box and sell you a new thing every few years. So I think we're going to see it across the board where cross saves, cross progression, pick up and play on whatever kind of device you have, whether it's streaming, whether it's local on a console or a PC. It will all be the same thing, and the center of it will be the content itself, right? If it's centered around a box, then that's not really in your benefit. That is in the benefit of whoever is selling you that box, right?
Yeah.
The content should live across all places. Anyway, that's where I think it's all going, and I think we should all sort of, that's good for us, whether you realize it or not. But anyway,
so real quick, I want to get a super chat, $5 super chat from Game Over Brian. I love these his question for BRAP, since we haven't talked about a lot of gaming night. When upgrading Final Fantasy VII Remake, do trophies pop automatically? He does that. I think Mooch's show, a couple other shows, he'll pop that super chat. So thank you for that super chat, Game Over Brian. But no, this is a great conversation, and I don't want to. I'd love to talk more about the subjects. I think it's fascinating, but I do want to get to because we have a few minutes here before we wrap up. I do want to get to the Halo Infinite beta, which I was not selected for because I don't know. Maybe I'm too much of a pony, I guess. No, I was not. I was not. I was not. I was left out. I'm on the outside looking in, but that's okay. But I did catch a little bit of the technical, I think, showcase or whatever it was they had today. I only, truth be told, I saw like maybe 10 minutes of it, and then because it was streaming while I was working, so I didn't really get a chance to kind of get into it. But some of the things that I saw looked pretty cool with regards to like the armor customizations, things of that nature. How they're going to let everyone really buy, all the, they're basically giving you money. They're giving you free credit, if you will, to test the store out, things like that. So I think that's cool. I'm assuming OBM, I know you're excited. I know Everborn's talked a lot about it. He's excited. What are you guys
hoping? Looks like
to...
Halo's going to cure cancer.
Yeah. What are you guys hoping to get out of this experience? What do you want to see from this tech demo or this beta?
I mean,
All right,
you're going to have a longer answer than me. So I just want to
No,
say, I'm actually I'm excited to play and get in there and see what's offered, but I really want to see the campaign. Right. And you are right, Brap. It feels like they've been hiding it. And that's the thing that's most exciting to me. But as far as this, it's just going to be fun to get back into Halo again. It is my second favorite franchise behind Zelda. So I don't know what to expect. I want to see if they got rid of sprint or the dash mechanic, right? So we'll see, and I'm very excited to try the grappling hook. But for me, the biggest thing that I want to see is not even here. So
I hope they don't. I hope they don't take away sprint.
Oh,
they're
no,
not.
they're not.
They're not taking away sprint.
They're not taking away sprint. Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think of like how to summarize my thoughts because we just did like a 2-hour show on it. So on everything, our thoughts and everything about going through some of the reveals. And from a high level, I'll just a couple things. Obviously, Halo is my favorite franchise. It has been since 2001, 2002, kind of as I was playing that over and over. That campaign back in the OG Xbox launch, there wasn't a whole lot in that first year, and so I replayed that campaign over many times. The thing that I like that they're trying to do, it does seem like they have heard all sides of the communities on Halo. There's been a split in the base, over the last few years between the group that wants the modern Halo that where the Spartans feel like more like they sound like they are in the books, and the classic people that want the floaty jumps and they don't want sprint in the games. And so it really does feel like they're trying to thread a needle on the base game, but they're adding so many options for customability. And one of the things I did pick out from the developer comments today was that they are still hearing these different pockets of the Halo community, and it does sound like they're going to try to address those. I feel like they're going to have a lot of things in their toolbox to create playlists that appeal to all sides of it. If you're not really into maybe the base is a little bit too fast or it's a little bit too slow. I have people that I play with in Halo 5 that are bummed that there's no booster pack. But one of the things that we saw when you were looking at the reveal today, one of our crew called this out is as you were like, they were scrolling up all the PC options. There was an option. There's a customability option for adding those jetpacks. So it's like, oh, so they are in the game. They're just not in the base thing they've been showing. It does seem like there's going to be enough toys for people to tweak Halo to their liking. The community is going to be big enough this time where they should be able to create consistent playlists for the different style types. That's what I'm hoping. That isn't something they've really confirmed, but it does seem like based on everything they say that opportunity is going to be there. I'm looking forward to this weekend to get a good feel for the tweaks to the weapons, knowing that a lot of the stuff is going to continue to evolve anyways, but just start to get a kind of a feel for like how's the pistol balance this time, things like that. But more than that, the thing that's excited me about it is it looks like Halo is going to be more dynamic than it's ever been. So if you're somebody that likes to share clips or likes to look at other people's crazy crazy clips of funny things happening with physics, and there's just a lot more. Everything in the environment's a lot more reactive, and from the physics to the particle effects to even the animations really do react more off of the hits and things like that. So really excited about that. The thing I'm a little bit more quietly excited about is, and I heard complaints about the fact that they're going against bots, and that's just part of it. This is really more of a tech test than a true beta, but I am very interested in that because if something that probably went under the radar for most of the Xbox and Halo community last year was in one of Microsoft's game stacks, there, Ninja Theory was on stage kind of, or they're being highlighted in terms of working with Microsoft's their research division on AI reinforcement learning and their goal and this was with Bleeding Edge, which rest in peace Bleeding Edge. But the thing that was exciting wasn't that it was Bleeding Edge; it was that they were trying to replicate human behavior in terms of taking it at a level, like taking it multiple levels beyond what we're used to from, what we normally see with AI in games. Normally, when you think of good AI in games, and people say, well, I don't necessarily want good AI because I don't want it to be that difficult. Or I want it to be more, something that's not going to frustrate me. Well, really good AI doesn't necessarily mean it's going to whoop your ass every time. What it means is it's going to replicate human behavior more. So you should actually have scalable difficulties in terms of, is this AI how fast are they to react to you? What kind of movements? What is their strategies? Things like that. And I think they're going to incorporate a lot of that into this. And we already know the bots are going to be a big part of, they are going to be integrated in some other modes and things like that. I'm interested to see how that, going back to what you were saying, Everborn, with the campaign, I'm really interested to see how things like the AI, the patterns, the behaviors they kind of learn, how they can start to bring that into the campaign over time. And we do know that Microsoft is they've shown that they are willing to go back to even campaigns, and they've implemented frame rate updates and and resolution updates and other things. I'm interested to see if they will continue to iterate the AI over time. I predict they will, and that to me is going to be some of the most interesting things, because as I think about this next generation and what's really going to define it in terms of innovation. The opportunity really is there. And AI is not seeing a big jump probably in 20 years. And I think they have the tools now between the servers that can collect all this data, run all the machine learning and AI, which is obviously they are one of the top 3 AI companies in the world, start to use that information. And now that they're all in on gaming, which they weren't really in the past, I know they did stuff with Drivatars, but they weren't really, that wasn't something that continued to evolve. It was something that was pretty stagnant from what they released back in 2013. I think we're going to start to see some exciting possibilities in this next generation. So I am curious to see how those bots play this weekend, and it will be interesting to see how they play the next time we see them. So I'll stop there.
So let me ask you. Go ahead. Sorry. Yeah, I was going to say, I remember that there were sort of complaints from hardcore Halo players about Halo 5, because I thought that multiplayer campaign was really good, but there were people that said it didn't feel like the Halo they were used to, and it wasn't just the dash and sort of clambering and sprint. It was more that it was a really good game if you were a pro player. Right. Yep. But it wasn't something that the common man could really pick up and play that way. Do you think they address that, or do they go more into the minutiae of things?
Yeah. Can I?
Sir, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say something to that point. I was actually, everyone, I'm glad you brought that up, because I think the one thing that stood out to me in the very limited time I was able to watch that video today was that they said for the first time this game is free to play and it's on PC. And I said to myself, to your point, I think what you're getting at here is, is it going to be more inviting to a general audience? I think so. I think it almost has to be, because one, it's free to play. So that you're going to get people that maybe weren't interested in Halo because they didn't want to pay $60, $70 for Halo, right? And now like we talk about the power of GamePass, being able to get eyes and allowing people to try things maybe they wouldn't try. I think if you want to get people involved, maybe you have to address some of those issues, which they said they're listening to, the Reddit boards, they're listening to long-term. They talked a lot about that on the stream. So I think that they probably, I mean, again, my opinion, I think they will, and I think they kind of have to, because to your point, everyone, if the complaint of the game was You need to be like Halo God level. You need to be a pro to like, have a good time and win some games and some matches. Then they probably need to dial it down a little bit, especially because it's free to play and be having I think a good level of entry where people are going to stay engaged and just got to throw that controller because they're frustrated because they're getting owned all the time. Now,
Right.
on the flip
Be
side
clear.
of that,
Be clear. I was just setting the stage because I know I'm going to get watched this weekend.
yeah,
I'm going to blame it on like them not balancing the game properly.
On the flip side, though, what I think what that's going to do, though, if you make it, and I hate to use the word too casual, but that's what people are going to say. Oh, it's too casual. But if you make the level of entry, you make the game accessible because you have to, that there's going to be more eyes on this because it's free to play. It's in Game Pass, so you got that. It's on PC, so you got that. You're probably going to piss off some hardcore folks. They're going to be like, you know what, this game's too casual. I could totally see that happening with that community.
I think that's their challenge and anyone's challenge when you want to make a game that's sort of mainstream that way. Because look at a Pixar movie, right? It plays for the kids, but there are also jokes there for the adults. Right.
That's a great point.
And they're able to make things that play on different levels. So they have to find a balance to where it is accessible to the point where it won't turn you off, but it's also complex enough for pros to find interest into it and want to compete in esports and things like that.
So I actually have I have a good answer for you when you guys. I'll let you guys finish, but I do have some.
No, go ahead, Obium. Go ahead, man.
Yeah, no, so you guys actually bring up some really good points, and that has been one of the complaints from even the most Halo enthusiasts, the people that like the Halo as Halo, from Halo 5 was that it was that they felt it was too sweaty, right? Like, hey, if I don't have an Elite controller and I don't got all my fingers working, working really well, I really can't compete at a high level in that game. It was very sweaty. It is something that people are addicted to and really love about it, but it is also something that makes it very hard for new people to come in, especially, later on, right? It doesn't really give you that floor for a casual to kind of jump in after the game's been out a couple years. But the thing that they're doing here, to your point, they are trying to find that balance. One thing that came out of today's, I think it was today, it was the last couple of days. I can't remember if some of this stuff was off Twitter or what came from the video, but they did talk about having the different playlists where, like, for example, grenades, like they have hit markers for grenades, which is a little bit more of a casual thing. In the competitive modes, they're taking that out, right? So I guess what I'm saying is that they're starting the base game where it's going to be inviting enough where you don't need to have an Elite controller to play. You don't feel like you need an Elite controller to play the game. You don't have as much stuff going on. I was really watching the guy kind of run through his playthrough today and kind of paying attention to like how many moves or how many button inputs you would need to do everything he was doing. It does look like that's been simplified at a base level, which you can still incorporate that in a high level as well. But they still have a lot of level of complexity with all the different equipment that's on the map, knowing how to use all these. I did notice that you really can't just focus on using only a couple weapons. Like they were really switching out the weapons and they all seem to have, a good amount of use. And so it's going to give people a lot more. They were using the AR a lot more, which is something that, people don't at a high level never use in Halo 5. So yeah, I could definitely see where they're trying to, they're finding that balance, but I do think that at the end of the day, there is going to be a mode for the uber competitive, like the HCS, like the competitive side of Halo is still going to be there. They've been working with the competitive groups on the balancing, but they do want to make sure that at least at a base level, that this is not something that's overwhelming for the new person. I definitely do notice that, like when I'm watching some of the gameplay, there's a little bit more randomness. Like Halo 5 was very flat. There wasn't a lot of like, you throw a grenade and something crazy happens, you get lucky, that kind of stuff. Like there wasn't a lot of luck to Halo 5. This looks like it's bringing in a little bit more of that dynamic aspect, a little bit of the randomness to the game again, which will, I think, be more appealing to the casual gamer that just wants to see.
My go-to move is throw a grenade behind you and then run towards you with a shotgun. 60% of the time, it works every time.
Yeah, that's. I mean, grenades are always been a very, I think, important key in Halo. I remember playing when I used to play Halo a lot. It was like you had to have your grenade skills down. You had to. And and of course the pistol. I mean, the pistol in Halo Combat Evolved is still my favorite by far.
Same. Yeah, that's same here. We still have something in common from all those years.
God, you were playing Blood Gulch. I mean, it was just like a pistol fest,
But they had to power the pistol down in every subsequent game of Halo because of how much of a go-to that was.
Yeah, yeah, and then the noob combo in Halo 2 was another one. But anyhow, no, it's yeah. I wish I could have. I wish I would have had the opportunity to test this game this weekend because, my Halo is kind of waiting for me. Well, no, I mean, look, I'm a fan of video games, and Halo Combat Evolved was the first Xbox game that I fired up on my original Xbox console before I became an Xbox Live beta tester.
Let's be honest, Enrique. This is going to be like you and B Money with NBA 2K. It's like, oh, they left me out of it. Oh, okay. Oh, my copy of Halo doesn't work.
You understand that BRAP is gonna put that on his gravestone, Xbox Live beta tester.
Oh, absolutely. That will definitely at your funeral that it will definitely be. I'll make sure that they don't forget that. I'm kidding.
Very long time from now.
No, I'm totally kidding, Enrique. I just wanted to give you shit because you still haven't played B Money and NBA 2K.
Yeah, no, and I will eventually. But anyhow, no, it's exciting. I'm excited for everyone who got into the beta, and I'm looking forward. The cool thing is they're letting people stream this live, which is cool. So I'm looking forward. I'm looking forward to watching some of the content creators that I follow stream this live on Twitch, or maybe through YouTube. But it's definitely cool. It starts tomorrow, goes through August 1st. So it's going to be really cool, and it's going to be cool to see what the general feedback of the community is regarding this beta. So, but on that note, it is 7 minutes past 11 o'clock. BRAP has to go to bed because I got to get up early and go to work. But
you got children, you got chickens to take care of.
I got 4 kids, 9 chickens, 2 dogs.
I have to go and try to beat Death's Door before the Halo.
I hear you, man.
Opens up.
Well, I have the Ascent pre-downloaded. That goes live at midnight. So in an hour, that's going to go live. And I haven't
midnight EST or because a lot of times they do that California nonsense.
I think it's.
Wait till
I don't
3
know.
a.m.
I don't know. I have to look, but I have it pre-downloaded, so I'll probably fire it up at some point. Maybe during my lunch break tomorrow, I may fire it up for a couple minutes. And give it a run. But I do want to give a big shout out to everyone in the live chat. Thank you, everyone, for coming by and hanging out with us. Please hit that like button. We had over 100 people here watching, so please hit that like button if you're new. Subscribe and hit the bell notifications so you're alerted when we go live. I am working on there's probably going to be a BRAP rant, I think this weekend. I'm looking at probably doing a BRAP rant Sunday. I'm thinking 6 p.m. Eastern time. Working on getting Jaffe back on, David Jaffe back on BRAP. But we are going to talk about it's going to be part gaming and part what the hell's the U.S. doing with this pandemic. So if that's something that interests you, let me tell you something, and I'll just give you a preview of maybe what might come Sunday. I'm at the point now where I've just lost my patience with this pandemic. And I've lost my patience with conspiracy theorists and people who doubt science, scientific method, things of that nature. So I'm just at my
based on feelings.
Then
if you call them on it, they'll dig in even deeper because they can't admit that they were stupid.
No, conjecture.
And how do you fight that? Right?
I don't think you can. I just think there's and I hate to say this, I think there's just some stupid people out there. And I never wanted to say that because I don't like calling people stupid. But I'm at a point now where because some of these comments that I see, and God, I don't want to go through this rant now, but some of the comments that I've seen recently about one of the public school system that I live in, that my kids go to, about, requiring a mask, implementing a mask mandate for school this fall, with all kids having to wear masks, teachers needing to wear masks, despite whether or not you're vaccinated. And I see people saying, we got to stand up and fight for our rights. Teachers should have the rights. Kids should have the rights. I'm like, talk about a fucking public health crisis here, where people die, where the purpose of a mask is to protect your fellow your fellow brothers and sisters who live in the community. Blows my mind.
Hilarious to me. Hilarious. Anytime, and it's always a certain group of people that talk about this infringing on rights shit about masks and whatnot. And then you will say, hey, my rights are infringed on by the police or by systemic things. And they're like, whoa, hold on now. How dare you? Right? I'm trying my best not to be political, but
that's a great point, Everborn.
It all of this shit is situational ethics, and it is all because they were told to be upset about this, not because they're actually upset. And if and Fauci, I think Fauci said this, like, we would not have been able to fight and cure polio if this is the way people behave. Now, I do want to add one point to that, one point of context. I understand that there is a healthy skepticism in the Black community because of things like
historically, yes, absolutely,
yes, right, absolutely. So that's completely understandable. But that's not what we're talking about. That's not the people who are talking about infringing on my rights, right?
No.
So, but anyway. Listen,
yeah, so
if you want me to rant with you on Sunday, you just give me a call, buddy.
All right, yeah, let me confirm with Jaffe, man. I might have to bring you back on, because I've hit my boiling point now, where it's like we have the tools necessary to really end this thing today, and it just boggles my mind that people refuse to want to end this today, and they're doubting science, and science is the closest thing that we have to the truth. If you don't know what I mean by that, I don't know. Look up the scientific method, I guess. I don't know what else to say, but anyhow, but yeah, everyone in the live chat, thank you again. I appreciate each and every one of you coming by, hanging out this night. Again, hit the like button if you're new, subscribe, and hit the bell notification so you're alerted when we go live. But also want to give a big shout out to my BRAP panel members who couldn't make it tonight: B Money, Eric Jackson, Slubbo, and Forte. I hope you gentlemen are okay. I don't know what happened to them. They were supposed to be here, but I don't know where they are. Hopefully they're okay. And also want to give a big shout out to our guest here tonight, Evan Board Saga. Evan Board, always a pleasure, sir. I always appreciate your insight. Please let everyone know where they can find you.
Oh, yeah, you can find me at Everborn Saga everywhere. That's PlayStation, Xbox, Steam, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram. I'm very active on Twitter, but most importantly, check me out on everbornsaga.com, where you can sort of find out what the Everborn Saga is. We make comic books, we make art, and you can check all that out. And you can also check us out on YouTube every Thursday, where we do On the Reel, where we sort of talk about pop culture and storytelling. And this week we will be talking about Masters of the Universe and the bait and switch that was the marketing. So if you want to hear some smoke that day, every Thursday at 8:00, we go live to talk about whatever's going on in the world of TV and movies. And Saturdays on Kay Asante's channel, we talk, just like we talk tonight, gaming stuff on the Gaming Circle. And I'm on Boom Show, Primetime Gaming, every Monday. But again, everbornsaga.com, you can check out the books. They're really high quality. I'm sure if you're in this community, a lot of people have posted about them, and I want to thank everybody that has supported. And we got Prince of Arcadia Chapter 4 coming out soon, and we have a new series that we're launching hopefully by the end of the summer. So I will stop talking right now, but everbornsaga.com and YouTube and everywhere else.
Awesome. Evan Ward, again, I appreciate you coming through, man. Always great Great conversation. And then we got my buddy here, One Bad Mother. Hey, OBM, we've gone from beta testers to podcasters, man.
I know. Look at that, man. It's been, for anybody that doesn't know, I came in right after Mr. Xbox beta tester here. I was here day one on Xbox Live. And so we've been we gamed back in Halo 2 back in the day, and, some other games as well. And here we are. Always appreciate when you bring me onto the show, man. If people do want to find me, you can. I just look up Xbox Era. I'm part of the team over there. We do have some forums. So if you do like talking about Xbox or just gaming in general, we try to eliminate the trolls there as much as possible. We actually have had Phil Spencer pop in there even a couple times and say hi. But it is a growing community. And also, you can find me on the You Had Me at Halo podcast, which usually has been running bi-weekly unless we have some special thing going on. Next week, we may have our impressions show from the beta, as well as I'm a senior writer over at Xbox Era. I'm working on right now an article on the independent developer, and specifically looking at it in the lens of Game Pass and subscription models, but just also looking at them overall. So it is a segment that I'm very excited about this generation, like we were talking about before. But thank you guys. I really do appreciate it. Anytime, BRAP, anytime I'm not just burned out and sleeping, I'll try to be here.
No, man, I appreciate it. I appreciate it, man. All right, everyone. Enjoy the rest of the week. Have a good time playing video games. And to all those who got into the Halo beta, enjoy tomorrow. It's going to be it's going to be fun times. And again, probably a BRAP rant this Sunday. Again, just waiting to confirm with David Jaffe. It is going to be, I'm warning you, it's going to be part gaming, but part probably political and pandemic related. So, but if you're interested in hearing that, please join us Sunday if that in fact does happen. But keep an eye out on the BRAP Twitter account, BRAP_podcast, for more details on that potential BRAP rant this weekend. On that note, we are out. Everyone, again, have a great, safe week. And we'll see you regular scheduled BRAP next Wednesday, 9 p.m. Eastern time. We're out. Take care.
See you.